So, how do you grab attention? How do you do it immediately? And why is this even important? Okay. So, without going too far into the neuroscience here, we've got these three brains, right? And they're constantly working in the background, these three brains. Obviously looks just like a brain, right? And so these three brains are constantly working in the background. And the first of these three brains is often referred to as the critter brain, or your reptile brain, okay? Now, in terms of evolution, this is the oldest part of your brain. And this part of your brain is primarily focused on survival, okay? So what do we need as animals to survive? Well, we've got to eat. We've got to avoid being eaten by, either attacking at the right time or running when we feel threatened. And we have to mate, right? Or at least, be communal with other animals that pass our criteria and are the same as us, right? This is basic herd mentality and it keeps us safe. So in essence, this part of your brain is trying to figure out, is this thing an enemy? Is it an ally? Or is it something that I should be indifferent towards, okay? So this part of your brain tries its very best to block out anything that doesn't serve one of these prime directives, okay? Now, obviously, that's most things. You probably don't even realize that if you live in a major city, you're probably being exposed to between 1 and 5,000 marketing messages every single day. Now, do you remember seeing all of them? No? Then you can thank your critter brain, all right? Your critter brain is what stops that internal meltdown going on by cancelling things out, putting it in the indifference frame. Does that make sense? So to very quickly and easily remember what the critter brain's job is, remember it by the 4 F's. It's feeding, it's fighting, it's fleeing, it's reproduction. Cool. So basically what this means is your critter brain is primarily running the pattern of safety. Is this safe? Okay, this is what it's concerned with. Is it safe? Will I survive this? Cool. Now the second part of your brain that's important here is your limbic system or your midbrain. Okay, midbrain. Cool. So your midbrain is primarily used for making emotional meaning of things, okay? Or contextual kinesthetic meanings. What do I mean by that? Okay, so let's say I've got a lump of snow in my hands, right? And I look at the context. What's the context? Well, I'm in the desert, it's during summer, so I like the experience of this block of snow in my hand. Make sense? Now, if we change the context, now I'm on a snowy mountaintop in the middle of winter and I'm naked, right? So I look down at my block of snow. Do I now like this experience in this context? No, I do not like the experience, right? So now this is also the reason why we understand what's called it's called primate dominance dynamics, right? Which is the realities and rules of communities. This is the part of our brain that helps us understand those dynamics, okay? Effectively, how do we relate to what's going on around us, right? To other people, to other contexts, okay? What are the relationships? How should I behave given my relationship to the situation? That's what it's doing. Does that make sense? Cool. Then the final part is the frontal and prefrontal lobes, or the neocortex, right? Which is the part that's primarily focused on language, okay? It's used for language. It's also where what we use to solve high-level problems, okay? So these are the parts of our brain. And so as far as the problems are concerned, we might be looking at things like, does the product work? Or, will it work for me? Or is this a good investment for the future? And of course, some apes are better at using their brains than others. So why is all this stuff important for selling and so important for selling? Well, here's the thing. These things operate in order in our brains, and they work as filters, and most people never get past the critter brain with their messaging. See, your critter brain wants to put everything into one of 3 buckets, right? And wants to put everything in the bucket of indifference, or in the bucket of ally, or it wants to put us in the bucket of enemy. Okay, so if your sales pitch doesn't stand out, then your customers' brains are hardwired to mentally check out, push you into this indifference bucket. Does that make sense? And effectively what the brain is doing is it's waiting for the real opportunity or the threat. So when we're teaching business owners and managers to pitch, we teach them a whole bunch of ways to really stand out, to make sure that we're not put in this indifference bucket. So what do you need to have in your messaging? First of all, does it have a big claim? Does your message have a big claim? Does it solve a big problem? Does it solve a painful problem? Is it specific? Is it personal? Is it tailored to the person that's hearing it? So these are the ways that we beat the critter brain, right? This is how we get attention. So, let's look at some of the best marketing slogans of all time. You've got BMW, the ultimate driving machine, L'Oreal, because you're worth it, FedEx, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight, right? Big claims, yeah. Solve painful problems, absolutely. Specific and personal, yes it is, right? Now, the best part about this is when you're talking to somebody, when you're presenting to someone, or when you're writing your online copy, you don't have to keep all of this anti-critter stuff, to beat the critter stuff into a simple few-word slogan, right? But the rules are still the same for beating the critter brain. So, in a pitch, I might say something like, I work with small businesses and medium business owners by teaching their teams some simple selling strategies that typically double their sales in the first 30 days. In fact, if you're not completely convinced that this is the best course that you've ever done after 30 days, even if you've made all your money back from what you've learned, then I'm going to refund you your money and I'm going to pay you an extra $500 just for wasting your time, because we don't want time wasted in our program. Get it? Right? So, does that get your attention? Probably does. Why? Because it meets all of our criteria. What's our criteria? Does it make a big claim? Yes, it does. Does it solve a painful problem? Is it specific and personal? Yeah. So, here's the thing though. Once you're out of the indifference frame, this is where all this kind of gets turned on its head. See, now I might have your attention, but you're no longer in the indifference bucket. Well, I'm no longer in the indifference bucket for you, okay? So what happens is your critter brain right now is on high alert. And it's no longer it's no longer indifferent towards me. And see, this is the one thing that you need to know about the not so evolved critter brain. The main driver of your critter brain is fear with the goal of survival, okay? So that means that it has no real attention or intention to changing its current situation, right? Anything that's currently associated with its experience of survival right now. Meaning that your critter brain runs this pattern of, am I alive right now? Yes? Cool. Any change must mean death, right? So if you've ever known anyone resistant to change, you now know why. So it's your critter brain's first reaction if I've made a big claim, a big statement. Its first reaction is to put me into the enemy bucket. Okay, it's going to run this new equation. It's going to run the equation of, is it safe? Is it valuable? Can I trust this? And if any part of your brain says no, well, then the rest of your brain starts screaming out, this is hype, this is bullshit, I'm not interested. Now, this might be the experience your customers are currently having with you right now. Okay, so what is the experience that you need to create now to move to beat this paradigm, the enemy paradigm? Connection.